asked Meta AI if the Jets won the draft, and they said that they were one of the winners of the draft. I was very excited about last night.
Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Use code MAYO at Underdog Fantasy right now. Get yourself a match deposit of up to $100. And if you're in Florida, get in the game with the new Champions game, where you can win a multiplier of up to 100 times whatever you get down. So check out Champions in the state of Florida right now. Everywhere else, get in the Pick'em game. We've been cleaning up on Pick'em, so you might as well get in with code Mayo. Make yourself a winner immediately by depositing $100, using code Mayo, and then getting $100 on top of it. Double your money right away. All right, more details down in the description. We're talking NFL draft reaction, maybe a mini version of Cust Corner towards the end, if we have enough time. But Geoff, it's the day after. You love the NFL draft. You hate all the discourse around the NFL draft, much like I do, but I think you got your guy, Joel.
I mean, I adore the NFL draft. I think, I take in the discourse. Maybe I get too easily triggered by insane discourse, and the draft has come so popular that, everybody's just putting out the discourse, and good for them. And yet, Joel, Jim Harbaugh's in charge now, and the plan is to just have a dominant offensive line and meet grind through football games. So we did exactly what I guess the Jim Harbaugh era was going to do, and is take the best offensive lineman in the class, one of the best offensive line prospects that has entered the NFL in many years. I know fantasy bros are tilted, and there's a segment of Chargers Twitter who are also these younger guys who grew up strictly being fantasy bros, who are beyond tilted. But, you hired Frank Lloyd Wright. You can't tell him how to design the foyer.
There we are. Nice work on foyer, too. If you were an American, you'd be like, where's my foyer at? And it would just sound really disgusting to my ears and most of the ears of the world. But let's bring him in, because you went offensive line and the Jets went offensive line. So let's get the reaction of one, Mr. Tim Undergust.
Tim Undergust.
That's not my name. Geoff, you have to get used to the fantasy bros and the analytics bros hating your team, because they are going to hate your team when you guys are 31st in pass attempts all season, because that's what Harbaugh does. They don't throw the ball. The stat guys and the analytics fellows are going to despise the Chargers, because they are going to be playing like it's 1991, and that is going to frustrate a lot of people.
They're going to throw the ball more they're not going to throw the ball a ton, but unequivocally, they will throw the ball way more than people are assuming they are going to throw the ball as we sit here in April.
So Josh Palmer's going to have 1,500 yards receiving that if they're going to throw the ball a lot. Because right now, if they started the game, there's him and Guyton.
Dude, there's still, you're right. The receiving room is lacking. That's obvious. There's still more of the draft. There's still, once these 14 really good receivers are done and we're through the draft, there's going to be teams who release players who play receiver because they just drafted somebody. But it also shows Tim, you value what you value. And clearly the guy from Baltimore and Jim Harbaugh don't value receiver like the rest of the league values receiver in 2024. And while everyone is zigging, the Chargers are zagging. Clearly they want to slow down the fight. They want to stay in every fight. When they're in the fight, they want to be able to grind them out. So, it's a new era. Fun and sadness could be replaced by boring and sadness, but I think hopefully they'll win more, at least over the course of time. You hired Jim Harbaugh. You complain when he drafts the best offensive lineman prospect in the draft. You don't know what you're doing. That's like going to the best steakhouse in town and being mad they didn't have the sushi you wanted.
You're right, though, that you value what you value. And not only do I already like Alt because he's an Irish player, When they cut to that family room and there's nothing but cans of Diet Coke and Coca-Cola and Sprite all over the place, like, this is a Coke family. Okay. This is like further confirmation that like you have the right values and this is the right choice for your team. So I was very excited for you because I think you had got a fantastic player for whom he has my full endorsement. Like, I liked him already because he played for Notre Dame, but to know that he's from a Coca-Cola family, that's all I needed to know.
A lot of skinny people in that room with all the Diet Cokes around?
Well, there's at least one person who's very, very wealthy.
No, that's true. But, just to quote your favorite president, never seen a skinny person drink a Diet Coke.
Well, I don't think that's true, though. I mean, then Diet Coke.
Hey, you told me everything Trump said is true. He said that. Makes it true.
I don't think I said that at all.
I'm pretty sure we could go through the records and we could find you actually saying that.
Go ahead.
How much did the Jets have to give up to get to the best pick of the draft? Like, did they have to?
How about that?
Did they have to trade like 3 first-round picks to move back a spot to 11?
What a steal. We got a 4th and a 5th to move back a spot to pick the player we were going to take anyway for free. Great. Like, I have to assume we made the deal because the Broncos and Raiders were knocking on the door. So that's why they allowed the trade for 1 spot. Great. We pay a little bit less money in the cap hit for the player we were going to take anyway because we've never taken a quarterback. And yeah, we took what seems to be probably the second best offensive lineman. I think Olu looks like he's going to be a necessary and important player because while we have Tyron Smith, who's one of the best left tackles the last 15 years, he doesn't play a lot. So, like, we need somebody on an offensive line that's full of talent, but also full of people that don't play all their games. He is essential for a team that's like, win now. We don't have a chance to rebuild mode. We got to win now. Thought it was a very smart pick. I liked the pick. I was excited for it. The highlights they showed of him after he was drafted were like next level exciting. So I was very excited about that. I found some YouTube vids about how some people saying he's the best prospect in the draft. I asked Meta AI if the Jets won the draft, and they said that they were one of the winners of the draft. I was very excited about last night. Was it perfect? No, it wasn't perfect. I will admit that I would have preferred Alt. I think Alt is like perhaps an all-time great tackle. He has that skill level. But I am super excited for Olu. We made the right pick. We got a little bit of value back in the Rodgers trade by being able to trade the 10th pick back to 11, get a couple extra picks. It was a great night to be a Jets fan. Plus that, you get to see that new drip, which also looks great. The new hat, the retro logo, things are great.
So I actually had someone record you inside of your draft room while the Jets were making the pick last evening. And, well, I guess we can cut to that right now.
That block.
You did a great job of not falling over there.
Now that right there, that is a Hall of Fame tackle right there.
Hall of Fame, Tim. That is your prediction?
I think the skill set that he showed in that highlight video and the highlights that I have since watched.
You mean the good? You only watch the good highlights, though, right?
Well, not really, because they were showing who was it that was drafted after him, the tackle that was drafted after him. Like 2 of the videos that they showed of him was him holding on the play. So I'm not certain that they always show the best. Anyway, he has the potential to be that. He's a very special player. Alt and Olu were the best 2 linemen in my opinion for sure, and I'm glad that we got one of them.
All right, so
I could be wrong.
Hold on, Jeff. Jeff, hold on. How about you pronounce a last name for me? The people want to hear it.
I think it's Fashanu.
Good.
Well, there you go.
Because I saw more than one tweet of people saying it's Fashanu week in Gotham now, and I was like, oh, that's pretty fun.
I actually enjoyed. I mean, I thought it was very smart to trade down, get some extra equity for the pick. Paul was wondering if it was just the Vikings panicked and they were like, well, we got to get to this pick and we'll give it up, and the Jets kind of rooked them. But I'm kind of with you. If we saw that Denver took Bo Nix with the pick right after it, it's. I would assume that the phone rang for pick number 10 from, like you said, both Las Vegas and Denver in that sense. You must be thrilled, Jeff, that the Broncos got Bo Nix instead of J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah. I mean, I let out, like, I I'm not in the real business of tipping picks. I've said many times, me and my buddies actually like have a bit of a party on draft night. It's an annual get together. It's not like just bros staring at like the screen watching a clock. It's on, and we're just in, we've just turned it into a thing, and we have a great time. But there's a bit of a rule, like no tipping picks. If you're going to tip picks, you better shut the F up. I looked at my phone. I like squealed like a pig when that Bo Nix pick came in, and the whole room knew something weird was about to happen. Thrilled. Not going to lie, though. Didn't last long, because about 12 minutes later, my favorite player in the entire draft went to the Raiders, who I now hate.
They have that 2 tight end offense, which is going to be incredibly difficult to stop.
And it's easy. And that's easy. Like, what a safety net for a shitty quarterback is whatever they've got there. So, they still don't have a quarterback, and I'm worried that'll prevent them from being really good. So my emotions were tempered because Denver was on the clock, and I'm like, please don't take Brock. Please don't take Brock. Please don't take Brock. And then I see it's Bo. I'm so happy, like literally so happy. Bronco fans, I'm wrong about you a lot. You could throw this at me in the future, cut the tape. I don't care. Like I was happy, like my team just won a big game. Like happy when I saw that Sean Payton had to panic like that. But full credit to Tim. They moved back one spot. They got their player. I was kind of hoping the Chargers would do that with the Giants. I swear to God. Like, give me a free 3rd rounder. I thought Tim would get a 4th. He got a 4th and a 5th for that. So, like, yeah, I was like, really, yeah, that's how you do it. Like, that's how you do it. So full marks to the Jets, and clearly people were calling, so they felt like they could do that. Minnesota felt they had to do that, I guess. But yeah, Denver, Bo Nix, haha, like truly.
In Denver's defense, though, if your option at quarterback is Zach Wilson, anybody else is a better option.
Tank.
So, like, Bo Nix has got to be better than Zach Wilson.
No, go back next year. Try again. Suck it up. Eat your 100.
Fair.
The thing about Denver is, of all the teams that actually needed the QB, they were the team that if they didn't come out with a QB, you kind of would have been like, okay, that's not ideal for them, but I don't think it stunts their program like that much. Like, there was already an acceptance of what was probably due to happen. I think like panicking is the worst thing they could have done, and they did it.
I guess the one thing that you look at with Bo Nix is that if you're trying to get, the homeless man's Drew Brees and pair him with Sean Payton, he's kind of the guy, isn't he?
You should have put it this way: if he doesn't win the starting job in camp, that's really terrifying.
Well, it's not Zach. It's not Zach Wilson that he's going up against. It'd be Stidham that he's going up against.
Yeah. Why would that be awful? Terrifying?
Because Zach Wilson and Stidham are both terrible, just terrible. So if the guy that you draft at 12, who, if I'm not mistaken, Christian Ponder was also drafted at 12. Yeah. And that was the thought that first came to my mind is, oh my goodness, that this is such a bad pick. The same stupid teams make the same stupid mistakes every year. It always happens. And we'll come on to it when we talk about the Bills allowing the Chiefs to have the fastest player by far in the NFL. Sure, have them. I'll basically get very little for this pick and let the Chiefs draft the guy who's a lot faster than Tyreek Hill. Well,
let's talk about Buffalo then, because Buffalo traded out of their pick to allow the Chiefs to trade up. Then they traded 32 to the Panthers to get number 33. Listen, Paul made a good point. Maybe it's some cope on his part in terms of the Bills, but it does seem like there were 3 receivers in this draft that are awesome, and then everyone else was just like, sure. And the next 12 are all basically the same guy, just with different traits. If the Bills really do need a receiver, the one thing that they're sorely lacking at this point, based on their cap situation, is depth at basically every single position at this point, be it at receiver, be it in the back end of the defensive backfield. So if they can move up 40 spots here and 40 spots there and try to actually build a roster of guys they might actually need to use this year, I don't really hate it. Just because the guy's the fastest dude in the draft doesn't mean shit. I remember when John Ross went number 9. It doesn't matter if he can't catch.
Yeah, but you don't empower the team that you're, actually trying to beat to win a Super Bowl. I'm sorry. I think that's just poor strategy.
So I fall right in the middle here because I totally agree. Like in the moment, what a weird, to just trade with the Chiefs at all in some weird way. It all does almost have these weird like division vibes, but it's just like the rival vibes. And then to let them get their need. For all you know, Xavier Worthy is just sitting there for the Chiefs anyway when they pick. But I do agree, yes, it's maybe Paul coping, but it's a totally fair thought. And I did a draft exercise this week with the Hammer where it was a mock draft and we were assigned different teams, and I had the Bills. And I essentially said, if they can't trade up, I would expect them to trade back and try to double dip the receiver, because where the Bills were picking felt like no man's land for receiver. Pat mentioned the 3 receivers. Then it felt like Brian Thomas Jr. was his own tier of like the 4th receiver. And then there's 9 receivers that could go in any order. And the Bills probably had a really good feeling about it. Even when they made the second trade with Carolina, they probably made Carolina tell them which receiver they were taking. Literally. And Bean has a relationship with the Panthers. He's like, listen, if you want this 1 pick swap, you got a deal, but you just have to tell me, tell me who you're taking, and then I'll decide. And then they probably said the guy they didn't want. They're like, yeah, let's do it. And if you actually feel like you got value and you bettered yourself, I can't complain like from the Bills. But from a fan perspective, it's like so many things. These fans, they just keep getting kicked in the nuts. They feel, from how last year ends to then Diggs leaving, which I don't disagree with, but it's a polarizing thing, to then getting their letters for how much more they're going to have to pay to go to football games in this new stadium. And then to like trade this guy to the rival, and then they get this like speed burner. So I can get totally why the narrative is out there. And Morency put out like a 10 of 10. It felt like literally true vintage, like 2009 Morency, because he's mellowed a bit in recent years, but he went back old school there. I felt like I was an intern again. I loved it. I see totally both sides, and I don't think it's that much coping. You could argue it's just smart GMing, and the fact that the Chiefs came in there is weird, but I don't think the Bills wanted Xavier Worthy. I don't.
No, and we saw the Chiefs do this when they were trying to draft a Tyreek Hill replacement last time. They drafted Mecole Hardman, and he was terrible, despite what Tim says. These speed guys are what, like a 10% hit rate, if that?
Sure. But speed is, just so crucial in the modern game. It's so crucial. I just wouldn't allow Kansas City to arm themselves with a wide receiver that could just take the top off the defense, a position that they're desperately in need for. And I don't think, like, Bill Belichick would never have done that.
Right, and you realize that he isn't a coach.
That's all
he also isn't a coach.
Not with those
He's
teams.
not a coach or a GM in the league anymore because people think he's washed. So who gives a shit what Bill Belichick thinks?
Bill wouldn't have traded the Colts a pick? Like, is that what you're saying?
He wouldn't have traded the Colts a pick in the first round that would have empowered the Colts to get better at a significant weakness, trying to beat them. It's just, it's just not the way you want to run a railroad. I mean, good luck to the Bills, but I mean, like, every decision Buffalo makes seems to be the wrong one. So I guess keep on doing what you're doing. Eventually it'll work out, right?
I don't think it was the wrong decision, but like you could see, like in the moment, the fans, they've waited 3.5 hours to watch their team pick. Then they trade the pick to the rival who takes like a fun receiver who you're waiting not necessarily to take that specific receiver, but you know it. And then here's the thing. This is like where the tilt comes in, is like Paul's already dreading the fact they're going to play the Chiefs. It's going to be a close game. And then this Worthy at some point in the game is going to make a sick play. And then it's just going to then the announcers are going to bring it back. Oh, the Bills gave Mahomes to Worthy from the Buffalo Bills. Like, I'm already annoyed for Bills fans. Like, because people are going to play into that. Hopefully the Bills can just be better and win. I truly hope that for them. I think like the morning after, a lot of it is being over exaggerated. I expect the Bills are going to get exactly the receiver they wanted at 28 with this pick tonight. So, and they got more picks for it. That's really the truth of it.
Well, a lot of it too. I mean, listen, everyone who gets drafted is probably eventually going to end up making a big play or two. We even saw Terrace Marshall make like 2 big plays throughout the course of the season for the Panthers over the course of the past 4 years. So it can happen with anyone who ends up getting drafted. But I think it's like everyone is now talking about with the speed that, this is finally the Tyreek Hill replacement. Or he's just like minor Tyreek Hill. He's like 70% Tyreek Hill. Like, there's a chance that he's fancy Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who they already have.
Maybe the Bills traded them a lemon.
That's-
Wouldn't that be a fun
That's the move. Like maybe it's just like sometimes in fantasy, like there's a guy in your team who you know sucks but has name value, so you drop him so someone else picks him up. So that's the move. You stick him with the shitty player.
Yeah, or Occam's razor suggests they don't know what they're doing.
That I don't buy the Brandon.
I don't buy the 3D chess bank shot game that you guys are arguing.
I'm
clever by half.
I'm arguing that they need depth. So acquiring more picks and moving up to get guys that you could potentially play this year to fill out a bunch of positions is probably the better move for them, because out of all, like, if as bad as they're going to draft, as trades as they're going to make, and the times they blow it, they have the one thing that matters the most. And we've seen that just, if you can constantly rebuild over time. Everyone wrote the Chiefs off like 2 years ago. It's like, oh yeah, they still have Mahomes and Kelsey. That's going to be fine because they have Mahomes. The Bills still have Josh Allen. So they need to be able to put some pieces around him to keep the boat afloat a little bit and then try to improve from there. And just acquiring more draft picks is the way to do it.
That's a great team.
As a hardcore
it's a great team.
As a hardcore fan of a team, like, I get it in a sense where, like, just under no circumstance are we dealing with them. Like, just period, end of story, done. But, like, from the true managing the team, the analytics of a trade, they got a trade they liked. It happened to be from a rival. They're moving back to get the player they probably wanted. Like, when you take a lot of the noise out of it, like, I agree. They got more picks. They double dipped. That seemed like a smart strategy instead of trying to guess which receiver of these next 9 was the one. Yeah, like, and also earlier in the draft, the trade the Jags made,
good trade
to get all those picks.
Yeah,
incredible. Like,
so,
what an incredible move.
So the Jags trade pick number 17 to the Vikings for 23, a 5th round pick, number 167 this year, and a 3rd and 4th next year. Just move down 6 spots and essentially take who they were going to take anyway. Sounds like a win. Although,
great win.
We haven't brought it up yet. The Falcons taking Penix. The Falcons roster now offensively is basically what the Jags were, Geoff, when we first started doing this show in like 2017 or something like that. But the mirror version, where the Jags just spent super high draft picks on these like all-star defensive players year after year after year. And eventually just their defense was really good. That when they became Saxonville. The Falcons are just the mirror of that now, but it's all like offensive video game skill guys.
I mean, what a moment, right? Like, what a moment that was in the draft. I'm still a little like, can't believe that happened. I guess if you're a Falcons fan or Falcons fans trying to like just talk themselves down, in a weird way, they were the favorites to win the division before the draft. Like, I don't think any of that changes. They probably still win the division, and I don't know, they got a quarterback of the future, but what a weird. I don't support it. Like, I don't support it. And the best tweet I saw just hit home as this golf guy's was buddy tweet, like, when you buy like when you convince your wife that this new $600 driver you bought is much better than the $550 driver that you bought last summer. Like, I don't know what I don't know. Their logic is we're not going under Kirk Cousins. We're going to win games. We're going to the playoffs. We're not going to be in a position to draft a quarterback in the next 3 years.
Well, Tim, you're very experienced with buying an expensive driver and then 2 weeks later buying another expensive driver. So that analogy,
you're speaking to me.
Yeah, that analogy should really relate to you. Now, Kirk Cousins is 35 years old, coming off a significant injury. Maybe this is like a one and done deal for Kirk Cousins, even though he's signed to more than that.
We were looking at the cap last night. They're kind of into him for 2 years, no matter what. They can't get out of it. But, I guess the Falcons went from a year where their year got destroyed because they had 2 terrible quarterbacks. They said, I'll fix that problem. Now I'll have 2 good quarterbacks. Then what will you do? I don't quite understand it because with the cap hit, they're stuck with Cousins for 2 seasons. Now, Cousins just missed most of last year, and he is 35, and Raheem Morris apparently is in love with Penix, and I get it. Penix seems to be a pretty good quarterback. He's already the best left-handed quarterback in the NFL. I'm excited to see him play. And I don't know, like, if Penix is awesome, like, he may very well win the job. Don't think that Kirk Cousins is guaranteed to start. You don't draft somebody 8th overall after you paid Kirk Cousins all that money, if there's a 0% chance he's going to start. Like, I'm just saying, maybe something's up with Kirk. Maybe the medicals aren't as rosy as one would have thought.
Then why would they sign him?
Can't explain it. Well, they maybe didn't know all the ins and outs until he actually became a Falcon. I don't know.
That's
None
not
of it
how
makes
it works,
sense.
though.
None of it makes sense. So something is up. There's obviously a piece to the puzzle we're not seeing.
It might just be that they want, like, quarterback is so, after such shit quarterback is so important that they, like, took this really long-term plan. I don't agree. It seems like they're in. I would try to win the freaking Super Bowl. Like, that's what it's about, not preparing for 2027 or 2020.
Yeah, I don't get it. And, like, him being left-handed is important because it's not like you can bring him in on the odd series to shake things up because you have to flip your left and right tackle. There's all kinds of, like, complications that come with having a quarterback who throws the other way. So, like, I don't know what they have cooking down in Atlanta, but it makes
so
no
old.
sense.
You would, like, if he was
He's
JJ
an older
McCarthy,
quarterback too. Yeah, he's an older QB as well. Like, and he's had 2 serious injuries on the same ACL. Like, I like Penix. I think he's a really good player from what I saw at the University of Washington. But, like, I don't get the Falcons drafting him. But obviously, something is up that we don't understand. Either there's an issue with Cousins, or they know something about Penix about how amazing he's going to be. I can't explain it other than maybe they think this is their Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes moment.
Paul,
Except that Smith played for like
but
3
don't
years
you make the
before
playoffs and lose with Alex Smith once before you draft Patrick Mahomes? Like,
that. But I mean, then Mahomes sat an entire year. I don't know. I don't know what the game plan is here. The whole thing is very bewildering. But, like, there's got to be some weird question mark that we're not aware of.
Paul,
I think I know the weird question mark that you guys are looking for. Atlanta's in the deep south. And where Cousins goes, Penix usually follows.
All right. Boo.
That was a good one. Come on.
that is really bad.
No.
My group chat was loving that one last night.
Yeah,
boys.
good for your group chat. Jesus
You're workshopping your material before you come on the show.
No, they loved it.
You
They
might
were
need a new
like,
test room.
You got to drop that one. That's a banger.
I'm real, like, as much as I hate the Bo Nix pick, like, it makes not. I don't think he's a better player, but you could at least maybe see why they did it. This
it makes
one,
more sense.
I mean, it's just Arthur Blank. The Falcons want to hoard the premium position. I guess. I don't know. In a weird way, like, there's no way Kirk Cousins can be traded. Like, he probably signed the no trade shit that he had in Minnesota and all that.
I did see last night that Schefter reported that multiple offers were made for Herbert and that they turned it down.
No, I saw that there was multiple reports that I think it was the Raiders and the Broncos were actually trying to trade up inside the top 10 to get Penix, not McCarthy.
Well, that makes sense. They probably understood that Atlanta wanted him, so they needed to move up.
So weird.
And as for that, sorry.
I was going to say, following the draft on Twitter is my actual favorite part of the draft, just to see people losing their minds in real time. And for as much as I despise how much NFL draft chatter there is for like the 6 weeks leading up to the NFL draft, just because people literally have nothing else to do if they're in the NFL content space, just really pisses me off and I find it annoying. The actual draft itself, Geoff, is a lot of fun. I get why you get together with buddies and watch it and have it on in the background. It's fun.
Yeah, it is. It is fun. And, like, obviously, like, when you need to be hyper focused or your team's on the clock. But yeah, it just becomes, it's just a fun night. And it's not even so much what happens. It's like the excitement of, like, what could be happening, at least in the lead up. And honestly, full marks, like, credit to you, Pat. Like, you don't even engage in the draft bullshit until the week of, and you bring like Thor on, like, and you do, okay, like, the draft is here, we'll do something, but you don't, like, for a moment, like, play in these waters of, like, okay, weekly draft mongering show from the start of March till draft day. So yeah, you're right, it does become this whole thing, and you mentioned it's almost like an industry now, which is weird, and the betting, element of it. It's such a
I get the betting element of it because I mean it's an information market. If you actually have good information, you can make a lot of money. Which what we've seen over the course of the past 3 weeks or so is people lost all of their money betting on the NFL draft based on if you made your bets like 6 weeks ago or did your mock draft 6 weeks ago, it probably resembled much of what the top 10 did. Like even the one that we did this week, like we did it without trades, and everyone had like, oh well, this team is most definitely trading, and this team is most definitely trading. We just set a rule, no trades allowed. It turns out like we were pretty spot on with like the first 12 picks or so because no one ended up making very many trades in the first. I think the over under was set at 6.5 for trades.
No,
and people were
trades
like,
almost.
but people
They
were
never they happen, but they're not nearly as frequent as people say. It frustrates me
also,
to no end. I'm glad that you guys do it that way because, like, in the top 10, like almost nobody trades on draft night. Almost nobody trades.
And to Pat's point, like the mock drafts 6 weeks ago, a month ago, were exponentially probably more accurate than what came out like in the week of, because you overthink it, all this like crazy stuff, but it really just ended up being like the chalk draft that you kind of expected it would be. And JJ never went in the top 5 or the top 3. Not to say he didn't have his team built him up into a nice spot, but yeah, in the end, it just ended up being the draft you probably would have written out the top 6, certainly to be at the start of the process.
So here's I got it wrong. I said the Broncos and Raiders. It was the Seahawks, Saints, and Raiders all tried to trade into the top 10 to get Michael Penix.
See it? Makes sense.
Then the Seahawks
quarterback.
Weirdly enough, I mean, we're not going to spend much time talking about the Seahawks and them just drafting Byron Murphy, but they're the most innocuous first round team of like the past decade, where they just sit there and like, oh, it's always the guy who's following, who everyone just rates is really good, yet has like no flash to him. They end up taking that guy, or they draft some like weird off kilter position. But these guys always turn out to be really good for the Seahawks.
Yeah, they're great. John Schneider does an excellent job there. And I'm a big fan of the new Mike McDonald, McDonald. So yeah, I like that. And yeah, before the night, I thought that could have been the place that like Penix goes like that, and sort of trying to find the quarterback. I had which makes it so much fun. Like not in a million years did I peg Atlanta to make that move. And to think they could have traded out and maybe gotten a lot for the pick if 3 teams were calling for it.
There is one thing I'm very fired up for, Tim.
What's that?
When we're watching football on Sundays and our buddy Butts is over.
I don't know where this is going.
If you know where it's going, please tell me.
I'm sure it has to do with Chop.
It does have to do with Chop. Can you imagine when Chop blindsides Aaron Rodgers in the first 4 weeks of the season and he's just in your face going, whoa? He was probably doing that last night when you were watching it with him.
He was very excited. Very excited. I told him I want them week 1 very badly. I know we're going to get the schedule in like 2 weeks or whatever. I want them very, very badly.
Tim, we haven't really done much, if any, football content post Super Bowl, post free agency. Not really a need for it. I had not spoken to you. I want to tell you as a friend, the excitement you had for the Jets last year, which was fair. You got a quarterback. You were excited. You made some moves. You brought in Aaron's friends. The Jets are so much better today than they were last offseason.
Yep. Oh, no, I know.
Like,
I know.
in my
Significantly
opinion,
better.
in my
Significantly
opinion. So how you are going to like be able to rein in your excitement as the season gets here, and you do realize the roster that you thought was going to the Super Bowl that is a hypothetical champion a year ago is actually better today.
Oh, yeah.
Like Rodgers has to be good. He can't be washed. He can't get hurt, but the roster is better.
The roster is the best roster in the AFC, but they aren't going to stay healthy is the problem. So I refuse to let my heart get too excited and my hopes to up because, yes, on paper, if you just ran a simulation, the Jets would win the AFC 9 times out of 10. But they're not going to.
9 times out of 10.
Because they're just going to get hurt, and I'm refuse to allow that heartbreak to happen again.
Yeah,
So
but
I'm just
how much
gonna.
better is this roster than last year's?
It's at least 20% better. But I'm just gonna roll with the punches, and whatever happens, happens. And I'm not gonna get too high, and I'm not gonna get too low.
You're not going to get too high, but that schedule comes out. You're playing the Dolphins week 1. You'll be making guarantees.
Well, yeah, I intend to put the Dolphins away in week 1. I intend to end the division in week 1 since Miami's the only competition in the AFC East this year. I intend to put them away week 1.
I like that your new hedge isn't like, oh, they'll win somewhere between 2 and 17 games. That's my range of outcomes. It's now they're very clearly the best, but they're going to be hurt, so that, it doesn't count.
Yes, because everyone on that team the reason that they were able to acquire them is because they have a long and sordid history with injuries. So it's what it is. Everything has to be like the LA Rams last year. Everything has to go picture perfect for them with injuries. It's not going to happen.
I saw Jets fans complaining that they ended up taking an offensive lineman and not getting another skill guy because they feel like their skill guys outside of Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall just are pretty
Mike Williams is also just fine.
I heard from a source on this show that he sucks. That was you.
Because he doesn't stay healthy.
Oh yes, but that wasn't always the case though, was it, Geoff? When we were talking about Mike Williams, it wasn't always a health thing. It's just that he's not any good. I recall him saying that, and that was years ago. And now it's 5 years in the future now, but he's better now.
There's a lot of Mike Williams slander over the years, and it was more than just the health, which is clearly an obvious thing. If he stays healthy, he is going to be an outstanding complement for that offense, for Wilson, and the ability to go get those Rodgers upchucks.
I expect so. Yeah, I expect. Look, the team is super talented. They have elite talent at just about every spot on the field, but they got to stay healthy, and it's tough.
You also have a 40-year-old quarterback coming off a busted Achilles. Like, there's a chance that he might just be washed.
Maybe, but a quarterback who didn't take any hits last year, so that's maybe that helps a little bit.
Yeah, he didn't take any hits. He just blew out his Achilles.
Well, and then it was back at the end of December. So anyway,
what was he now? Now, what if he just
back on the active roster?
What if there are like campaign dates for RFK Jr. that fall on Sundays, and he has to go to those fundraisers?
He isn't going to do. Look, we'll see. I'm not going to get too high or too low, but I know, like on paper, no one's beating me. If I play my best on paper, my best is better than their best. But the problem is that the football games are not played on paper. They're played on the field on a turf that is, just the worst turf in the NFL that injures people every single year. And there's been no indication that they're going to change that turf out. So I refuse to let my heart get broken, because even if they went like 11-1 to start the year, there's still the other shoe could drop at any second and everything could be ruined. And so I refuse to allow myself to get too excited until we're dining on beignets in a press box in New Orleans at the Super Bowl. Then I'll get excited, but not until then.
You got excited last year. Who the hell did they beat?
They beat Bills week 1 when they humiliated Buffalo in week 1.
Well, they beat the Eagles, right? In week 6 or something like that?
They did beat the Eagles.
Yeah, and then you came onto the show and predicted they would win every single game after that. But you're going to refuse to get excited if they're 11-1 this year?
Yeah, because of the heartbreak that I had to go through last year.
You don't learn your lesson ever.
I think I do.
If Rodgers is healthy, like survives the week 1 game, you are going to just tell us they're winning the Super Bowl. You'll probably tell us that this offseason.
He basically just told us that.
I'm not picking them to win. I refuse to do that. I'm already picking the Ravens this year.
But if they have the best roster in the AFC by far,
how many games is Tyron Smith going to play? 6.
Okay, so do you think that the Jets are the only team in football that has injuries?
No, but I think because of how poorly they've drafted over the last 5 years, that they have been forced to sign free agents to fill holes. And part of the reason that these players are available at free agency is because they have significant flaws, and one of them is injury problems.
All right. I mean, if I was just going to pick a Super Bowl winner, you have to think that things go right for whatever team wins the Super Bowl. So you might as well pick the best team.
No, I'm going to pick the Ravens because I still think they're the best. I'm just going to pick them.
Oh, you think they're the best what? Team?
They're the best chance to win. They have the 2-time and defending MVP under center. And I think they're going to be a very exciting team. So I'm going to pick them anyway.
You don't think it's the team that won the Super Bowl with the best quarterback and best player in the world?
It could be. It could be. Well, you never count the Chiefs out. Unlike you, who counted them out last year, I'm not counting them out.
When did I count them out?
When on our Week 17 live show, we talked about which teams had a chance to actually win the Super Bowl. I mentioned, oh, you can't write the Chiefs off. And you're like, they're kind of done. So you did it.
That is not what I said. That is actually what you said, and then you picked
No,
against them.
I said the Chiefs
and then you picked against them in every round, except for round one.
You think I picked the Bills? I didn't pick them. I did not pick the Buffalo Bills to beat them.
You nuts? You picked the Ravens. That's right.
I would never pick. I did pick the Ravens, but
didn't work out.
No, it didn't work out because somebody fumbled on the goal line. Happens.
Yeah, it does happen. That's true. Because of the chalk at the very top, Geoff, like the first 6 picks, I feel like people didn't get as much, like, for all I've heard about the past 2 years, about how good Marvin Harrison Jr. is, that it felt like his pick kind of came and went, and there was no, like, excitement about it. I'm sure that Cardinals fans are super excited about it, but just generally speaking, you think you get really fired up, like, oh my God, this could be a generational guy at wide receiver. Same as Neighbors as well. It's just like, oh yeah, of course they picked them. That's where they were going to go. And then we just moved on, like, when are the trades going to happen?
Well, I'd like to say I still think about the week 18 or last day of the regular season. Matt Prater missed 2 kicks. He missed 2 kicks to give them that draft spot and not me, especially one at the buzzer. Yeah, meaningless knowing Pat. I'll answer your question for you, though, right now. Marvin Harrison got picked. The Chargers are on the clock. Broadcast goes to commercial. Like, they just did the 3 quarterbacks. Marvin got picked, and now it's time for a commercial. So there's no time. There was no time to talk about Marvin or the Chargers because we're Arizona and the Chargers. So it's time for a commercial.
Who won the draft? The Bears?
Probably the Bears. Oh, yeah. There you go. We have the same answer.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy answer. It's like by default, like they got the top QB prospect and they had the 9 pick. Like, I think I'm so impressed with what Jacksonville did. So I'll give them lots of points. I like just the Jets getting 2 extra picks to move back a spot to get into the best pick of the draft. Who won the draft, though? I don't know. I'm not smart enough for that. I don't have a clue.
Well, Tim, let's get your thoughts on the Patriots at number 3, drafting Drake May. How do you feel about Drake May?
I feel like there's not much tape on him, and that it's a really risky pick at 3 because he could very well be Mitchell Trubisky. He could very well be Zach Wilson with very few games having been played. I think it's a very high-risk pick. I don't like it. I mean, you're taking the 3rd option available at 3, and I mean, you can pretend like you're smitten with him, but you know you're not. He's fine.
I am.
But like, do I like him better than Jaden Daniels? Yes, I do. But do I think he's going to succeed? I mean, hopefully the Patriots are smart and they don't play him all year. They don't need to play him all year. This year's already lost, and he's young. Give him the year to actually learn. There's absolutely, I mean, Ray, I made this point on your podcast, and I agreed with it completely. Like, there's nothing wrong with giving really young quarterbacks on a team that have no chance to succeed an opportunity to develop. And I think that's what the Patriots, like maybe come December when everything is really all over, you can give them a game or 2. But other than that, like, he's just a big old question mark. I have no idea, but I know the Patriots have 0 position players or any offensive talent around him, so he's not set up to succeed. So, like, they need to get to work to put around players that are a little better than Kendrick Bourne if they'd like to see this quarterback succeed.
I like Kendrick.
I love Drake May. He was my favorite quarterback in this draft. A brick shithouse, country strong, cuts air, mentored by Phillip Rivers, bringing that bolo tie to Massachusetts. Yeah, I love. He. At his ceiling, the comp is like a Josh Allen, Justin Herbert hybrid. So that's the guy that I'm going to say I really like. Anyone who's watched this show for years knows I am horrific at quarterback evaluations, as our draft evaluations, it seems like people have paid in the league. So what I say should obviously mean nothing. And I'm worried about Jaden Daniels. His legs are toothpicks. This Anthony Richardson, he looked amazing. Every game he got hurt. Until he finally got hurt for the season, which was still early in the season. I see very much the same from potential for Jaden Daniels. I don't want to take much away from him, but he just threw the ball to 2 first-round wide receivers. Like, that just seems like the Alabama complex.
Yeah, but that's no different than Joe Burrow when Joe Burrow came out.
Yeah, this guy ain't Joe Burrow.
No, I understand that, but I mean, those were some of the knocks on Burrow. It's like, look who he's throwing to. These are all first-round receivers. It just turned out he was really good, too.
Okay, that's a fair point. You're right.
And then what did the Bengals do to get the Bengals to the next level? They went out the next year and drafted one of the best quarterbacks or receivers of the last 10 years. And they need to do that. The Patriots have nobody who's any good on offense. So
But when was
idea.
When was the so you can sit them all you want. I don't think that's a viable strategy, only because who are the quarterbacks that we've seen succeed as people who have sat in 1 year? They've all sat behind good quarterbacks who were like playoff quarterbacks. You had I'm just trying to think back. You had Carson Palmer with John Kitna. The Bengals were a playoff team. Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith, who had just went to the AFC Championship game, and they made the playoffs again that year. Yeah, Phillip Rivers sat behind Drew Brees, and the Chargers had made the playoffs the year before, didn't they?
The first year he sat, they made the playoffs. So he sat and watched a playoff team much. Yeah.
And then you had Jordan Love with Aaron Rodgers, who sat behind them, and the Packers were good for a decade. That's why Jordan Love ended up continuously sitting. So you don't really see it all that much that a rookie quarterback comes in and they sit behind fucking Jacoby Brissett or something.
But if the year is lost, like if you start him week 1, you are not maximizing the opportunity to make him a great quarterback. That would be so irresponsible to start him week 1. They don't have anybody. You're going to ruin him if you do that. How many young rookie QBs have we seen that have gotten ruined because you played them too quickly? It's just not intelligent. Brissett's a fine quarterback. He's okay. You're not going to win this year anyway. Give the guy who's super young and doesn't have a lot of reps an opportunity to learn the NFL game before you throw him to the wolves.
Lamar
if he doesn't play well in the first,
Lamar sat behind Joe Flacco. I just want you to tell me who the quarterback who sat behind the shitty quarterback was and then became good.
You mentioned Carson Palmer. That Bengals team was awful.
They went to the fucking playoffs with John Kitna.
No,
yes, they did.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
No, they didn't. You want to wager? I can guarantee you that they didn't.
When did Palmer end up starting?
2003 was Palmer's draft year, if memory serves.
And so they had the first pick in that draft. So obviously they were terrible the year before that. But didn't Kitna play and brought them to the playoffs?
I'm pretty sure they did make the playoffs until the year that Palmer blew out his ACL against the Broncos. Or Steelers.
The Steelers. Yeah, that was in the first round, right?
That was in the first round.
Am I just misremembering Kitna being like, all right for them?
He was maybe all right. He was in Seattle before. He was okay. Like he'd been I think your point stands. He was like an above average quarterback, maybe.
Yeah, in 2003, he won Comeback Player of the Year for the Bengals.
Yeah, so he sat behind a guy who performed and played well and was a diligent preparer. I go both ways with it because Pat does make a good point. Like, you're right. I've never seen a guy sit behind someone shit, but why that happens is because when the guy is shit and it's week 5 or 4, the fans are just totally clamoring. I remember they actually had Eli sit behind Kurt Warner for about
true for half the year.
Weeks.
Yeah, they had him sit behind a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah, even on and that was pre Kurt Warner Arizona. He was in a bit of a dip, but they
couldn't get him out of there.
Yeah, that's when he had the thumb problem. He kept fumbling.
But yeah, so you're right, and I guess we know the reason for that is because when there is the shitty quarterback, the media and the fans from like week 2 or 3 are like screaming, we just want to see the kid. Get the kid reps. And Pat said many times in the past, and I also, to say I think I agree with Pat again, but when sort of breaking down all these young quarterbacks, like you kind of know, not like super quickly, but quick enough, like the good ones always show they're good, like quick. Like pretty
I don't agree
quick.
with that. I don't agree with that. I have to say. I think
Jordan Love didn't, but I don't know what you mean. The good ones usually show that they're probably good quick. Now I know Sam Darnold won his first game and didn't end up being a good one. I wear that as much as Tim does.
Hey, it should have been obvious when Sam Darnold threw a touchdown pass on his first ever career pass attempt. It was to the other team. That was pretty indicative of how his career would go.
Yeah. I mean, he'll probably start in Minnesota.
I don't think he will.
The kid's 20 years old or something, though, right? Or
Yeah,
20?
Darnold probably will start, but will he be playing in November? Maybe not. Depends how he plays. Darnold's still really young too.
Yeah, Darnold's still 18 years old, Geoff. So watch out for him. He's on his 3rd contract in the NFL or something, but he's still super young. 4th contract.
He is young, and yeah, you hope Darnold maybe could have like a Baker type resurgence, but I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah,
No.
that'd be great if all these ex-Jet quarterbacks just had renaissances. That would just be lovely.
Well, people have been hitting me up with that there's the super curse theory going on with Denver right now, Geoff, that you need to watch out for. Is that Tim hates Sean Payton, Tim wanted to get rid of Zach Wilson. Now they're together, that something happens to Bo Nix, and all of a sudden Zach Wilson's good. Would that frustrate you, Tim?
To no end. I would be a very unpleasant person to be next to week after week on a live show if that was happening.
Maybe we'll have to cancel the live show if that ends up happening. We can do it for 1 week, and that will be it.
I would be very unpleasant to be around.
Yeah, I'm a Zach. I guess maybe Zach does. But the thing is, to Pat's point from earlier, it is Stidham who's like clearly QB1 there.
I would think so.
They're all terrible. The other two are, but they're both terrible. So, like, who knows? There's an instance where Nix might start because, like, they actually have some offensive pieces in Denver. And it's not like you're not setting him up for some success if you start him right away because you have some good players there.
Kirk Cousins is going to be stunned about this when he wakes up tomorrow and reads about this in the newspaper.
I like that the Falcons, quote unquote, gave him a heads up. Like yeah, you think
a minute before they made the pick.
Yeah, whoa, that's
You
not
think?
that's a false heads up.
But that actually makes sense. Like Penix sits behind Cousins. Like Cousins maybe is almost in that Kitna mold where he's good enough that you know that he's going to play. Cousins is fucking 35 years old, and they're paying him enough money to make sure that happens. That seems like a very logical place to sit someone for a year. You're probably trying to save some of the reps on Penix's knees at the same time too to make sure that he's full go when he finally gets in. But let him learn the system of whatever you're trying to put into place. Learn from Cousins. And then he can end up coming in whenever that might happen, next year, the year after. But with the Drake May situation, like the Daniel situation, Caleb Williams, I think is on a different level than those guys with how people project him as a prospect. But you only have, yes, you might ruin your quarterback. That's most definitely true. But you also kind of need to get them live reps, too, if they're ever going to be any good. It's kind of a situation. And as Geoff said, sometimes you just do see it right away. It doesn't mean they need to be good right away, but you can see it right away. With, Peyton Manning wasn't any good his first year, but I think that people still saw it with him in his first year, even when he was throwing a ton of picks. They were just like, go hog wild here. Do what you got to do. Get all the shitty stuff out of your system now, and then we'll start putting a team around you, but we need you to get those live game reps to make sure you're good by the time that we need to actually start drafting people.
Yeah, the problem with that is I've been guilty of guys, and Pat, you've made fun of me many times, is sometimes there's just a few ceiling plays that I feel like I've seen enough that he could be good, and I may have held on to like Zach or Sam Darnold like a year too long because of some what clearly were the outlier plays that they were able to make. I thought they were both, fine. Even coming into year 2, there was that like Zach tape after year 1, like this highlight reel Zach tape.
I know.
Holy shit!
Again, when you only show the good plays, shockingly enough, these NFL players look pretty good.
Well, I'm only interested in those.
But when you're a first year player, like I don't know. Like, I just want to see X amount of good plays to feel like there's something to build on. Like I don't have a single Quentin Johnson play to be like, maybe we can build on it.
I do.
Look at all the catches he almost made.
Yeah, he got wide open a lot of the time.
I guess so.
Okay, last thing. Is there any benefit to being good at mock drafting? This kind of cycles back to this content cycle. Why isn't there a big money contest set up amongst all these like mock draft people. If they want to be like legit experts in all of this, that you make them put up $1,000. It's like a survivor pool or something like that. We figure out a way to score mock drafts, and there's an actual contest to figure out who's actually good at this.
So they
That's
do
because everybody's not playing on a level playing field. That's why. Some people have connections and sources that other people do not have.
Sure.
that. I guess is true. Like you can't.
So you're gonna put up the same amount against somebody if you don't have quite the sources that someone else has. Like you wouldn't do that.
I don't know.
It's true.
I don't
think
know how good these sources are. I mean, if the sources were so good, people wouldn't have been betting J.J. McCarthy, number 2 pick, Geoff.
Third pick.
Third pick. Sorry.
And listen, it came. I got in great, reliable. I got a tip, but that person has given me reliable draft tips before, so I had to go down the well, and I went down the well. I did, and yeah, that sucked because I took a bit of a bath because I played like corresponding bets with that. Like, oh, he's going third, so that means May is going X, and
Sounds like you
Right.
threw
So
all.
I took a
Sounds like you
shot.
threw all your Hamlin money away.
do you want to know that
Flacco
I did
money.
not really I
Yeah.
did not make a single draft bet until 2 days ago, and I somehow lost so much money. Not like enough. As for the mock draft thing, yeah, to Tim's point, like it's kind of unfair, like you're going up against guys with sources. But something I found out about the mock drafts in this season is all these like high-end guys, your people with sources, the people whose mocks people do try to trust or turn to are seen as reputable. They're playing a different game, Pat. There is like a scoring system in play that they are trying to manipulate. They're trying to manipulate this mock draft grading system with things like all this Latham at 5 stuff that you literally saw everywhere in the 48 hours leading up to the draft, were all these mock drafters trying to manipulate their final score because thinking Latham was going to go to the Chargers at 11 or something. They're not being as authentic as they want. They're literally playing safe and trying to score points in some mock draft tally game that doesn't have money to it, but it's because when it's over, someone ranks them and they take great pride in it.
Well, this seems
So
like
I have found out that
this
that
seems
they
like
are trying to game the system with the mocks.
Yeah, well, it's no different than like the Fantasy Pros fantasy rankings. Like, there's a reason that the top people end up becoming in at the top every year. Like, I've never participated in it, but it's pretty clear to see that you can kind of rig it to make sure that, you have X amount of guys ranked. So if they do well, that you end up, just the more players that you rank, the better off that you're going to be in these sorts of systems. This sounds like a perfect market for you, Tim. It's only credit-based.
It does sound glorious, doesn't it? But as somebody who once thought he could pick a first round of the NFL draft correctly, I've been chastened with even attempting these sorts of things.
How hard could it be to go 32 or 32, Tim? That was your question.
Came to appreciate that it's extremely difficult.
That might be an all-time, like one of the most insane, out of touch with reality, sports-based takes you ever had.
Yeah, but that one is. I always find that there's a difference between Tim's crazy person takes. There's ones that he's really thought about and doesn't think that they're crazy, which are just like off the rails insane. And there's one that he hasn't really thought about at all and just says. That one feels like that fell into that camp.
Yeah, it was more of a gut reaction.
Because I think the moment we asked him to do it, it was like 4 picks in, and he's like, you know what, guys, I don't think I can do this.
Correct. You've diagnosed this all correctly.
Okay. Let's end the show with something that we haven't done in a while with the three of us, meaning it's time for a mini version of Cust Corner.
Cust Corner, it's Cust Corner. Cust Corner, it's Cust Corner. He's got the hottest takes with the highest stakes. He should be president of the United States, but it's Cust Corner, it's Cust Corner. Cust Corner,
Okay, I don't understand why you people are attacking me on my egg ranking. These eggs are this is an excellent ranking. It's an excellent ranking, you might say, if I was Vincent Price.
Are you Vincent Price?
As
my
egghead.
my kids watch. I've been showing them.
Batman?
I've been showing them 60s Batman, and my youngest son loves Egghead and Vincent Price. Problem is now that anytime he sees a bald person, he asks them why they have an egghead.
I mean, Egghead is the best villain of the 1960s Batman. You could say
not
it's
King
Cesar
Tut?
Romero. King Tut is also excellent. I hadn't thought of that. Like, Cesar Romero was the Joker, doesn't really work. And
Burgess Meredith as the
Burgess Meredith as the Penguin also doesn't quite work.
It's
but
listed.
There's something about Egghead that's just perfect.
It's a P.O. box listed to someone named P. N. Gwyn. Penguin! I knew it! And then the three Catwomans.
I am glad that you're keeping that show alive in terms of having younger people watch it, because like it was formative for me as well growing up. Like I watched that it was whatever channel it was on. Maybe
YTV.
It was YTV.
It was YTV.
I watched that every single weeknight growing up with my family because Dad loved the old Batman too. So like that show, I'm glad to hear that it's going to have a shelf life, because I feel like there's a lot of like shows that I watched when I was young that, like, for example, like Looney Tunes, I don't know whether that connects anymore with anybody under the age of like 35, under the age of 30. But to know that like there may be people that will understand like the hilariousness of classic Batman going forward, just that makes me happy.
It's pretty good to put on because you can't put on any Batman that's come out within like the past 40 years or so, because it's like very dark. I mean, these are little kids we're talking about, like 5 and 3. That
True.
There's something fun about this, non-offensive and fun, although it's probably like super offensive, like if you actually watch it, because it's from the 60s. It's just how it would translate 70 or 80 years later, whatever. I guess 60 years later now, but kids can watch it. Like it's family friendly in a way where they're not gonna like just be terrified the entire time. It's full of bright 60s
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of that. That's
Yeah.
a good point. It's just fun. It's light. There's a lot going on. There's booms and there's zoinks.
So
Yeah.
here is your ways to cook eggs definitively ranked list. You have over hard boiled, poached, and omelet, then a gap. Then quiche, as Bronstetter pointed out. How do you cook your eggs quiche? You make quiche. That's not a way to cook eggs.
Whatever.
Deviled,
It's a way to cook eggs.
scrambled hard. What does scrambled hard mean?
Like, it's not a soft scramble where they're like a little runny. Like, I want them
It's
so
like
that
a well
like,
done scramble.
that they're firm. That they're a hard scramble is a firmly scrambled egg, like the type that you'd get at a diner.
I have
Not the sort of super soft ones that get floated on toast.
So scrambled hard. Like you said,
Are the ones you make.
the-
You make scrambled hard.
I do. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't.
Look,
Depending
when
on
we do a football breakfast, they tend to be scrambled hard.
I do because I'm half paying attention and trying to watch things at the same time. So I end up cooking them for a little bit longer. And I know that you're there. I mean, that's the reason that they end up getting scrambled hard at diners as well, because they're just leaving them in a pan the entire time and just bulking them
That's
up.
true too. I'm sure that's
I
true
mean, they
too.
do
That's the
taste.
way I like it.
They do. I understand that they do taste better soft. I've never heard anyone order or have an over medium egg.
Yeah, it's like over medium.
I understand the concept of over hard and soft, and medium would be in between. But I've never Jeff, have you ever heard anyone order an over medium egg?
No, I don't even know what the kitchen would do with that order.
It's like a medium boiled egg where you want the yolk to be sort of cooked on the outside but runny on the inside. It's like there's like a layeredness to them.
Poached
So
medium
it's a little bit more than over easy.
ends the tier. Then it's a gap. Baked, soft scrambled, soft boiled, over easy, quote, sous vide, which, why is that in quotes? Are you pretending like this doesn't exist?
Well, according to people who I've been talking with, the sous vide eggs that I get aren't sous vide.
They aren't. But that's
Well, they
not
are. I mean, they're advertised at Starbucks as sous vide egg bites. That
And
is
then-
how they're advertised.
And then in dead fucking last place, you have sunny side up. Well, sunny side up are
Yuck.
quite delicious. But
Yeah, but what's like Quincy? They're like quince eggs or something?
anyway,
What?
can you tell people why you don't like the sous vide eggs at Starbucks? And now
They're too hot.
that's not
They're too hot.
then fucking wait
You
30
get
seconds
those-
to eat them.
No, I'm not.
Oh,
waiting and
I'm
having
sorry.
my
I'm
car.
sorry. You have no self-control. That's tough for you. I hate
and
this.
not-
It's just like when we do the Sunday show, the live show, and we make you hear the timer end on chicken wings from the air fryer. They're immediately brought out to you, and your first inclination isn't to think, hey, maybe I should see how hot these are. No, it's just to bite into it right away, despite the fact that you know they were done cooking 30 seconds ago. It's going to burn the top of your mouth, you moron.
I don't want my car to be filled with the aroma of egg for any longer than it has to be. So I want to eat them as quickly as I can, and I don't want them to congeal. I want to eat them while they're warm, and I'm not sitting around all day temperature testing my sous vide, quote unquote, egg white bites until they're ready to eat. Like, I want to eat them now.
Yeah, but they're nuked. Like Starbucks nuked them in an industrial toaster.
I don't care. Don't make them so hot. Put them in a little less.
They can't. That's
take them out earlier.
You can't wait a minute to eat something?
Oh, it takes long. It takes
no, it does. How the fuck would you know? You jam them in your mouth like a fucking glutton and then burn your goddamn mouth.
No, I've had lava cakes that are less hot than these things.
How would you know how long it takes to cool down if you've never waited for them to cool down?
Because it is.
Because you know? You have no fucking clue.
Forever.
I have them all the time. I like them a lot. I'm able to let them cool down for a minute.
I'm not waiting minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes.
I didn't say minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes. I said a minute.
I didn't order them to eat later. I ordered them to eat now.
You're like a fucking 4-year-old.
No, apparently I'm a boomer, according to you.
Well, it's both. We found this subreddit, Geoff. Like it's just like, you know, making fun of boomers, like examples of boomers in real life. So we had a lot of fun with it in our group text because they all just sounded like Cust. Apparently Cust didn't realize that these things sounded like him. So he started doing it too, like taking screenshots and laughing with us. And he was just like sending us things that he does, but thinking he doesn't do them.
I love that. Tim, you probably you like my children, like you need an ice cube in your soup.
Yeah, on his pizza. Like when we go to the restaurant and we order a pizza for the kid, it comes out very hot. And they want to eat it right away because they're 3 years old. So we have to put ice cubes on it to cool it down for them because we know that they can't help themselves. They're going to try to bite into it. I think you need to do the same thing, Tim.
No, my mouth is actually very well acclimatized to really hot things.
Sounds
I
like
drink
it.
My coffee right away. Like, I don't need to wait for my black coffee to quote unquote cool down before I can drink it. But here you're telling me that I buy these egg bites that are sous vide, and I have to wait like 3 hours for them to cool down. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but I'm not waiting 7 or 8 minutes for my egg bites to cool down and having my car smell of egg for 7 or 8 minutes. I'm not going to abide that. That's foolish. I need to be able to eat them very quickly because that's what I want to do.
You might want to try
and I
to
assume
pace
this
yourself.
is why this is why I just don't think I'd ever want to have a sous vide.
Why don't you leave
Because if everything comes
earlier?
out this hot, I don't want to.
Well, it's not coming
Why
out of the
don't you-
fucking sous vide. Geoff just told you that. It's coming out of an industrial toaster.
Like, I don't need any sous vides, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's coming out of the highest grade toaster you can get that just nukes these things.
I microwave things all the time. I don't have this problem. If I microwave one of my frozen Uncrustables, it doesn't come out so hot that it's like molten peanut butter and jam when I bite into it. I know how to properly time it.
Hey, but you're also dealing with like kids who are serving lots of people. Why don't you? Here's a tip. Why don't you just leave a lot earlier and just bring a newspaper and eat in the Starbucks?
I don't want to.
And then by the time you get settled, you take a couple sips of your coffee.
I'll buy them when I'm on my way to something. I'm not buying them like on a Saturday. Like, this is not brunch for me on a day off, Geoff.
That's why I said leave early. I respect that you're going somewhere.
Some of us have things to do.
You
I
don't.
didn't make it like you had enough. I didn't make it like you had nothing to do. I'm under the impression this is like on the way to work. I'm saying, yeah, I don't know, man.
If you don't like them and they always burn your mouth, why do you continuously order them?
Well, because they taste good.
Then why are they
Well, why
dead
don't you
last
tell
on
the
this
lady-
list?
And they also are low in calories.
Why
And
don't you
and
tell
high
the
in protein.
lady to pull
Yeah.
them out 15 seconds sooner?
It's like, I don't want to have to go through the effort of making another.
So what you would
additional-
prefer to do is to eat something that you don't like and burns your mouth instead of causing a ruckus or waiting it cool down for a minute. This is what you. This is your
circumstance
life.
in which I
This
found
is your
myself.
life.
Yes, this is my life. This is my life. This is the circumstance that I am in, where I would like them to be a little less hot, and I would like to eat them right away. but circumstances are such that they come out boiling hot, and there's not much I can do about it.
See, this is why Tim craves to be like friends with the people at McDonald's, so he can make these like innocent requests without feeling like he's burdening them.
Particularly when I'm going to that window and I'm tapping the no tip sign. Like if I'm making special requests at Starbucks, am I not obligated to tip? I think I am at that point. If I'm making a special request at Starbucks to like, hey, could you take my egg bites out 15 seconds earlier? I think I'm now pot committed to $1 tip or something. So like, is it really worth $1 to me to make them less hot? Like I just don't think that the cost benefit analysis is there. So these are real world problems that I have. I know they're first world problems, but they're real world problems. And I can't be the only one who struggles with this.
This is not a first world problem. This is a fucking insane person problem.
Oh, I'm not the only one. I'm just no way.
Well, how is the reaction to you? I mean, your eggs list and the reaction to it. I mean, your list is just really indicative of someone who doesn't like eggs.
I like eggs. I don't like them runny.
It doesn't seem like you do. And this whole fucking runny egg can't eat yolk because your grandma told you not to is the most fucking...
And the FDA recommends people not eat runny eggs, if I'm not mistaken.
Straight from the chicken. Like you're not buying farm, like free-range eggs here, Tim. You're buying them from the grocery store. And it's not the yolk that's going to give you salmonella. As I showed you, it is the egg whites that are probably going to give you salmonella if they're not cooked enough. Like, all people want is to have a nice yolk, Geoff, that you can cut open with a fork and dip your toast into. Isn't that what people want with eggs?
Yeah, I agree. And Tim, like DFLing sunny side up, like that's an enjoyable, fun way to eat eggs. So, I don't know. Weird.
Tim also, another reason why obviously he doesn't like eggs, he basically only cooks them in the microwave.
Not only.
Mainly.
But like.
Mainly.
That is disgusting.
Yes.
That's not, I mean, whatever.
No, it is.
So
that's how you feel?
Are you say you're against sous vide because it takes too long?
No, it's just everything comes out too hot.
Well, it doesn't actually come out too hot. When it's actually cooked by sous vide, and that's when you eat it, that you're not eating it when it's done. You're eating it after it's been in the toaster.
Pardon my ignorance, but it gets sous vide and then they like industrial vacuum seal or like flash freeze it, and then it goes to the store locations. Tim orders it, they take it out, they toss it in an industrial toaster, and it comes out burning hot.
Yes.
As like every item you get from their wood.
Correct. There's no sous vide in the Starbucks.
Again, they're called sous vide, so they were sous vided at some point.
Yeah, it's no different than when you buy you can buy them at the grocery store frozen if you want to and heat them up in your microwave. They taste like crap. They taste like the ones at Tim Hortons. Starbucks actually does them really well for like what you end up getting. They're a great after workout snack if that's what you want. You just get straight egg whites, protein, low cal, to fill you up as well. I highly recommend them. And again, if you just wait the 60 seconds for them to cool down, you're going to enjoy your time and not burn your mouth every chance that you get because they said you just can't wait. You have no impulse control.
Whatever. I'm looking at the FDA site right now.
Is it because you're starving and you can't wait? Like, or is it like you blame the smell? Open a window. Like, I don't want to eat eggs in my car, to be honest. That's not something I'd probably do, but just open the window, drive, eat your eggs. It'll cool down.
Tim's car's filthy, too. Don't forget that.
No, it is not. I have a very
garbage everywhere.
Absolutely not. That's foolish.
You have dead man's hats in the back of your car.
Those are clean.
Are they?
Yes.
Did you clean them?
No, but they're clean.
They came with the car that the guy died in. They're just in there, Geoff. A clean
they're
car,
my
though.
Hats.
Clean car. Are they your hats? They don't sound like your hats.
I bought the car.
They sound like a dead man's hat.
They're my hats. Leave me be. Stop yelling at me. Stop being against
wear
me.
The hats?
What?
Do you wear the hats?
No, I just leave them in the back window. That's where they were when I bought the car.
Clean car, though.
What are the hats? Like, what's on these hats?
They're like baseball caps. I don't even know what's on them. They're like blue and whatever. I just keep them there.
It sounds like a hoarding situation. Like throw those
It's
things
not a
out.
hoarding situation.
Tim is a hoarder. This we know. We've been through this
No,
many
I am
times.
not a hoarder.
You are a
not
One
hoarder.
of these people you like when you're driving and the person in front of you has like a collection of dolls or something in their back window, and you're just having a hat collection in your back window of a guy who you've owned this car for a long time now.
I whatever. They're and actually they were in the first car. And then after the first car went, I brought the hats over to the second car and put them in the exact same spot they were in the old car.
That's creepy, man. You
No, it's not.
don't know this person whatsoever. It's just some random
No.
person you bought like a car from like a dealership or something.
From an
No,
estate
but
sale.
you like the look. You like when you're looking at
Wild.
the car from the back, you like the look of these like classic old man hats.
Yeah, like I don't mind them.
that have never been washed.
They're fine.
Are they?
I don't wear them.
They
They're
sound.
fine.
I mean, they're in your car. They're probably very unclean.
No, they're fine.
I have a clean car. I also have hats that I've never washed that I got from a dead guy's car from 10 years ago. Still, and I transferred them over. I thought you were Howard
like,
Hughes. Shouldn't you be
baseball
freaked
hats?
out about this?
Top hats? What are they?
They're just baseball caps.
This is weirder.
7th annual Most Insane Award goes to.
Yeah, we got the Custies
It's
coming up.
a wrap, Jeff. You can be as crazy as you want now after I just
Oh,
heard
listen,
that.
I know I've already got 2025 wrapped up.
Yeah, you still
I'm
have to
worried
see
about
you-
2024.
Yeah, you still need to sweat out this year.
I'm worried about this. He's off to a between grilled cheese. Like, trust me, there's notes being taken here. And yeah, he's already in a weird spot for 25, but I'm legitimately a bit nervous for 24. So yeah, we'll leave it at that.
To finalize the draft review, I did enjoy sending you all the Justin Herbert will get traded tweets, and then you like trying to blow it off, but feeling the need to be angry about it because you can't help yourself was just the
Especially
highlight.
when the odds went down.
Yeah,
6
like
to 1.
the highlight of my draft season was every time you would get mad about Justin Herbert trades.
Okay, that's fair. I respect that from your end. I try to not as much as I couldn't help it. I tried as much as to not like get involved with you because I could sense maybe you were enjoying it, and I know you're smart enough to not believe it. But when it was coming from, like, and I'm not talking about Antonio Brown like Twitter account.
Oh, stop? Did you see the Antonio Brown Tyreek Hill podcast?
Incredible.
We're canceling this show. I'm just gonna watch that show on loop.
Yeah, or maybe like illegally dump that show in the middle of this show and see if they catch us, because it's just what a show. Oh my god, it legitimately bothered me. It like, who are these people who talk foot like it was just like the lowest actual football IQ discourse. And I can't deny it. It would bother me. In the same way Tim would deny it when things bother him. Like this, yeah, it bothered me. It triggered me. I'm not going to lie, Pat. There is somebody in like the golf Twitter sphere who I wouldn't say I'm friends with at all, but, I'll follow him. I don't mind him. He engaged in this discourse having nothing to do with me, and I unfollowed him. And then, like, this past week, I got a message. I got a message being like, bro, like, I thought we were cool. Why did you unfollow me? So I'll come around. I'll respond to that and let him know, like, I'm just a psychopath. And anyone engaging in that bullshit, I had no time for. That being said, in defense of all you crazy people, it was reported yesterday that more than one team did in fact call the Chargers about trading. Sorry, didn't call the Chargers. When Jim Harbaugh made his comments at the like coaches, owners meetings, whatever, that McCarthy was the best quarterback, blah, 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 blah. He said they were approached by two teams to ask if they would trade Justin Herbert. And he was just a quick, like, zero chance. So I guess in reality, there were teams that did ask the question, and you could say that actually means that there was a trade talk, but it was ridiculous. And Dodo the clown, and he showed up a lot. If it actually happened, I don't know what I would have died. I think I'd have been dead. I'd have quit the Chargers. I mean that.
Well, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. It's nice to have us back talking football. You need to push it off for a while. Like we'll get the Custies coming up, the schedule release show, but I'm glad that we didn't get too much into the minutia of trying to do a mock draft between this and like the three of us not knowing who any of these people are. Not that we bring like a ton of insight to it anyway, but that would just been, I feel like a bridge too far with a lot of this stuff. But it's nice to get back together, talk about football and do a Cust Corner. Man, maybe we'll start dropping these a little bit more often now that we're on the back end of coming out of the offseason, which would be really nice. You can follow Geoff on Twitter at Fienberg17. You can also follow Tim at TimAnderCust.
Tim and August.
That is not my name or my Twitter handle.
You can follow him there and get some eggs rankings list. Maybe he'll have more rankings.
Just don't eat yolk, folks. Just avoid the raw yolks. It's always better to be safe than sorry. I know they say if you have pasteurized eggs, the salmonella is safe, but I always say cook your eggs so that there's no risk. Over hard is delicious. You go to McDonald's, they crack a fresh egg, they scramble it up, they put that on your Egg McMuffin. You're not getting raw eggs. And if yolk were the way to go, McDonald's, the world's most popular restaurant, would give it to you that way.
You can follow Tim Andercust if you want gigantic advice about how to be a gigantic pussy in life. And you can just take his advice on everything. Or you can live like a normal person and do what you feel like and eat the good stuff, all right? I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me at the PME. Smash a like while you're here. Sub to the channel. Rate and review the audio podcast and use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now. Get yourself a match deposit of up to $100. Deposit 100, get 100, all right? Thank you all for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. I will see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!